You had a whole town of people, more than a whole town of people pulling for you.
Crazy.
You went for it and you did it.
I like set a goal and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to figure it out. Dig myself in a hole and figure out how to get out of it. I signed up for fights that I didn't think I was ready for, and I figured out how to win.
So I've known Al since, like, I think he was in 9th grade. And we were in, what was his name?
Mr. Messi was across the
Rosenbaum.
And
Rosenbaum. We used to take 9-volt batteries and light Brillo pads on fire with them in a tech class.
I was a freshman. I think you were
Either
senior.
Either senior or 11th grade. I don't remember.
You were a senior, I think, because I remember looking at you. It was like you had no fear in class. You walked into the class like you owned the place. You did own the place. You walked in, you owned the place. Mr. Rosenbaum, I was like, oh, Mr. Rosenbaum. You were like, yo, Mr. Rosenbaum, get out of here.
He was at the end of his rope. That guy. I think he was ready to retire. He's like, do what you want. And we were like, all right, let's see if we can start a fire with this Brillo pad.
I just remember him saying Das Bootable 9,000 times.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like the DOS, we were doing the computer thing. I had no idea what to do. I still never got it.
No, I was not the best student. I was like straight C's.
Yeah.
I was like, exactly what do I need to do to get the same degree as that kid that's going to be valedictorian?
That's it.
And, so far so good.
You had it figured out, because back then I was like, my parents were both teachers, and they were like, get good grade. I stressed myself out so much. I
do it now with my kids, though. Like, I put a lot of pressure on them. I mean, listen, it definitely translates to some sort of success in life. But, like, speaking of parents, your dad just got some sort of award, I saw, right?
He just got inducted to the Nassau County High School Sports Hall of Fame.
That's cool.
Been coaching since before I was born.
What's it like for you to now watch him as opposed to him watching you your whole life?
Well, I watched him before. We would go when I was a kid. My mom would throw us in the car. We'd go to. It started. My memories of Limbrook High School. Barely. I remember him like talking about a few guys. Like those are my idols growing up.
Right.
Corey Ziskin, Mark Wolstatter. These are guys that like, I don't know.
It sounds like an old school ladies football team from the Dolphins.
Yeah. And he would tell like, he would always hype up, like he'd come home and he'd be like, I got this guy Wolstatter. They can't take him down. He just runs the ball. They get a hold of him. He goes 10 more yards before he gets taken down.
Did you do any sports besides, like, I think you did wrestling, right?
I played football. I played lacrosse. And then I got into wrestling kind of later. I played football and lacrosse always, and roller hockey. I played a lot of roller hockey.
Okay.
And hockey, it was never really like, I don't know.
So if my memory serves me right, I think you started out, was it Militich?
Yes. Yep.
Do you remember that guy, Sammy Ogello?
Oh, yeah, Sammy.
Nassau County cop. He was my Joe LaBello's
Sammy the Bull
partner for a while.
Yeah.
And then you made your way over to Sarah's?
Then I went to, so I was at the Militich gym for my whole amateur career. And I was a big fish in like a small pond. It was me and 3 other amateurs, and we trained together every day. But we didn't really have a path to go pro. And I had a mutual friend at Ray Longo's. And it just happened that I ended up at this gym. Everyone really knew Ray and Matt Serra, especially at that time. That was right when Matt won the belt.
Was like top of the heap right there.
So I went over there to spar with a guy named George Soteropoulos, who was on fire. He was undefeated at lightweight at the time. Had a couple sparring sessions with him, and I looked around the gym and I was like, Matt Serra's here coaching the other guy versus me.
Right.
Ray Longo is coaching this guy, and I was just kind of going in there I had like one of my friends with me, and I was like, this is, if I want to really do this, Pete Dragosel, Lou Kumo were all on the Ultimate Fighter, all made it to the UFC. So I was like, if I want to go pro and like make this a lifestyle, this is where I got to be. So
I mean, it's an impressive bunch.
Yeah.
When was like your first oh shit moment? Like I'm in it, because like when I knew you, we were legit kids. You were a child.
Yeah.
I graduate high school, and next thing you know, everyone's like, dude, Al Iaquinta is gonna go on what was the name of the show?
The Ultimate Fighter.
The Ultimate Fighter. And I was like, I mean, you may not know it, but you had a whole town of people, more than a whole town of people pulling for you.
Crazy.
I mean, it's like you went for it and you did it, like giant balls.
Yeah.
And good on you.
Yeah. I mean, I I like set a goal and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to figure it out. Kind of like dig myself in a hole and figure out how to get out of it. I signed up for fights that I didn't think I was ready for, and I figured out how to win.
Did you did you compartmentalize like the emotions versus the fear versus, or is it like you kind of just block it out and you're like, go for it?
I had a long rest, their whole wrestling career, kind of like that. It's very similar to a fight. So I had that, like the preparation, cutting weight, seeing your opponent, scouting your opponent, training for whatever style you're, playing to your strengths, attacking their weaknesses. So much translated right into fighting. So I felt like I had a good base for the mentality of everything. The skill, I had a strong wrestling background. I thought I was going to kill everybody. The first time I went to an MMA gym, my buddy was, Jansen, Kevin Jansen.
Yeah.
So Kevin Jansen, he was like Baroni's fighting Drago Cell in the locker room after one of the wrestling practices. And I was like, I don't really, he goes, Drago's from Central Islip. Baroni's from Massapequa. They're in the UFC. Like, these are like local guys fighting in the UFC. And I was like, I still didn't really like get it. And then I watched that fight and I was like, whoa, these guys are from Long Island. That's pretty sick. And then I went to the gym. I was like, from that point, I was like, I'm fighting. Like, I got to know what it feels like to get in there and like do that. And the crowd, we went to UFC 53 way back in the day. And the energy in the place was just like nothing else. It was just like the craziest energy. When someone got knocked down, the crowd went nuts. When somebody was in a submission and like got out, the crowd got nuts. Like every little thing was just nuts.
You went at UFC 53. You were attending as a guest, or
we bought tickets for like $200 back in the day.
Oh yeah, $200 was like probably halfway up too.
No, $200 back then got us pretty good seats.
Oh
we had
now
decent
it's like
seats.
$1,200.
Now it's like crazy. Back
100
then,
yards away.
Yeah, well, we had UFC 306, 307 now.
What was your big UFC that like you debuted on? Which pay-per-view did you debut on?
Debuted after The Ultimate Fighter. I debuted on, it was in Milwaukee. It was Anthony Pettis beat, what the heck's the guy's name? Anthony Pettis beat, Anthony Pettis won the title on that one. It was I forget the UFC. It was in Milwaukee. It was, I don't know, 12 years ago now. But
it was the guy with the long hair?
Ben Henderson.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Ben Henderson.
What was that like when you walked out? Well, I can't even imagine. Just a crowd of people.
Honestly, I don't even remember. It was
blacked out.
No, it was just so long ago. Like I remember like a lot of the end. You know what it is with fighting? It's like you remember after a while. You just live through like the video of it. Like I don't even remember like walking out. Like when I think back about it, I think about like watching the camera.
Right.
Like it's like my memory of it's kind of gone.
It's probably like your body, like your mind protecting itself from like I don't know the right word, like the shine of everything, of like just the intense pressure, everything that's you've done to accumulate to that moment. And it's just like, all right, you just focus on that camera and just, you get in there and it's just, it's wild.
It really is like its own emotion. It
was weird.
Nervous.
Dude, I was nervous, and I was watching on a TV.
You're excited to show everybody what you've been working on and how hard you've been working. You're nervous. You're scared of failure. I think there's got to be a little element of fear in there. But yeah, it was wild. But I fought Randy Couture's son in my.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah. What was the Khabib call like?
That was probably the wildest weekend of my life.
I can't even imagine.
I was supposed to fight the first fight of the night. Like scheduled to fight the first fight, and then Khabib's the main event, and so Tony Ferguson got hurt. His opponent, Khabib's opponent, gets hurt.
That was when he tripped, right?
Tripped on the wire.
Fucking guy.
They flew in that was a huge turning point in his career. Like he could have, at that point, he was undefeated.
And he was wild too. Like,
he was wild.
And
he would lose the first round, get killed, and then come back and choke the guy out with a Darce choke after throwing some weird punch or something. Like he was just
crazy. He had for a long time like an extra gear, and that gear was like crazy.
Yeah.
Like a crazy gear. It was just like he would look in the camera and he'd be like, he'd be like, oh, no one's home right now.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that's a young man's.
Yeah.
That's a young man's, style.
What are you, 39 now?
37.
No, 37.
Yeah.
So I think you probably were the closest to beating Khabib than anybody.
He had some early fights that were very close. But I mean, I went for a 5-round fight. Definitely, I think, it was just that whole thing was a whirlwind. So
I can't even imagine. What was that? Was that a hook or a cross that you hit him with? That he was like.
I hit him with a couple good ones. A couple jabs, couple shots, but he, it was such short notice that Ferguson gets hurt, so it was on April Fool's Day. I remember it was like, was this real? I called my manager and I was like, I knew I was a long shot. So I was the last fight on the card, the first fight on the card. There were another 2 fights at 150 at my weight class with higher ranked opponents, higher profiled opponents. Anthony Pettis was on that card. Michael Chiesa was on that card. So I was like, I told my manager, throw me in the hat,
Right.
If I get, whatever. They were like, nah, we're going somewhere. So they flew Max Holloway in from Hawaii. Main event, Max Holloway, who was the 145-pound. I don't know if he was the champ at the time, but he was like the guy at 145. He's going to bump up and fight Khabib. And I saw him that day, and I was like, this guy's huge. He was probably, off the couch. They called him to fight. He's coming for, give it a shot. He's probably training, but like not like in shape. I was like, this guy's huge. He was like 190 pounds. He looked gigantic.
When you meet these guys, does it seem like, are they like larger than life to you, or is it like you just kind of used to it now?
Yeah, at that point I was kind of used to it. I think at that time they were all like possible opponents.
Right.
Even Khabib, like he was on the bus with when Conor threw the thing through the bus. He was sitting right behind me, and I was like, I'm nice to him, but I don't want to get too friendly because he's probably gonna. My goal is to fight him one day. He's the top, So it was like a weird. I don't know if he felt that, but I was kind of like a little standoffish. I was like, I might fight this guy one day. I'm not gonna get like too friendly with him, And sure enough, 2 days later, I'm fighting him.
I remember the press conference. You're like, I'm just kind of happy to be here, man. It's like,
how do they make that decision? Like, do they ask guys too, and they say no sometimes? Also,
so that was the thing. So Conor threw that thing through the bus, and Michael Chiesa got his head cut.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He probably would have got that fight before me, but he got cut. So I was on the bus. It was freaking crazy.
That's wild.
But
it was at Barclays.
I was at the Barclays. Yeah. So he got cut. So he's out. Anthony Pettis is also on the card, but I don't think he really wanted to fight Khabib because he, from what I heard, asked the UFC for you price yourself out of a fight. You say, all right, I'll fight him, but you don't say no. But you say, I'll fight him for $3 million, and they're like, no, we're not giving you that. We'll give it to Al for whatever, you know. So it's like
he didn't have much in the way of like wrestling either, too. I don't
remember him. No,
remember
really.
him having
he had
like
some slick submissions.
Yeah, but like and good stand up.
Yeah,
but not like grind like Khabib just grind it out and weigh it down.
Yeah,
it's like when that guy gets a hold of you in your head. I would imagine people are like, oh fuck.
He's good at getting you to where he's good at. Like he knows where he's good, and he's good at getting you there. Against the cage, I didn't want to be against the cage. In the beginning, he took me down in the middle, which I wasn't like ready for. All the takedowns that I saw was against the cage, but yeah, he played it right. He got in, he got out, he got paid.
Do you have recollection of like being in the fight and hitting him with that stiff jab and watching his head snap back? Because I remember watching that fight and him being very, like, I would describe it as very up and down and like almost like amateurish with the stand up.
I don't.
Like very far away.
He definitely, that's like kind of like that Russian style he had, is but he could get away with a lot standing up because his wrestling's so good. Like you're worried about the takedown, so he can kind of, a guy that doesn't have that threat, you can open up more on the feet, but a guy that has the threat of that takedown and it's just like that Mike Tyson-ish aura about the takedown, you're just thinking don't let him take me down. Don't let him take me down.
It's like
you
being
know what
in
I
a
mean?
cage with a lion.
Yeah, yeah. And but his jab, he's definitely good. His jab was good. He jabbed the shit out of my face, but I didn't really care. I was like, jab me, I'm gonna freaking, you know, as long as you don't get me down, I know I'm good. The jab's not gonna knock me out.
Right.
You know.
So do you remember any of those, like like a specific moment where you hit him and you were like, "Ooh, I got him," like tattooed him?
A little bit. I don't know if I got him like hurt him, got him, but I hit him with some stuff.
I remember like at least one time where he did the stanky leg.
No, I don't know about that.
I remember
I hit
being
him
like
with,
shocked. I'd be like, "Oh shit!"
yeah, I mean, people didn't give me much of a chance at all. So in the third round, when I stopped one of his takedowns, and
I was not one of those people.
then,
I was like, "No, he could do it, dude. I'm telling you, he could do it." I still believe he could do it.
yeah, just I
Do the old
I
time.
relied on a lot of wrestling. I wrestled my whole life, and I was like, I'm taking this on short notice, but I've been in the wrestling room with some of the best guys in the world. I've sparred with the best guys in the world. I competed against the best. So I was like, it was kind of like one of the easiest fights.
Do you take any of that for granted? Because like the way you say that, and it's just so natural how it rolls off your tongue, and it's like. So we have a previous relationship, but when I told somebody, like, I was like, "Oh yeah, I like went to his, he's coming on the show," they were like, "Really?" And it's like, dude, like he's one of my favorite fighters ever. I'm like, "Oh, I've known him for like a long time."
Yeah, just long time, man.
I don't even know if
crazy.
you remember, but like we've rolled together.
Yeah.
You showed me leg locks.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I used that move a bunch of times too. You showed me you, me, and Victor, and some other person that I can't remember, and you were showing me leg locks, and yeah, I used it a bunch of times.
The jungle.
Yeah.
My dad.
Probably hated the fact that you were there.
What's that?
Your dad probably was like, "Don't go there."
No. My dad. So my first wrestling practice, I was in like a varsity high school. I was in 9th grade, and Victor must have been a senior, I think.
Yeah, same age as me.
So, and I was like, Dad, I'm gonna be wrestling with like the varsity kids. Like, I don't know. My dad goes, just look. My dad knew Victor from football, and he knew that that he was hardworking, like tough. He knew Victor, and he was like, just Victor's the captain. Just watch Victor. Whatever Victor does, you do. You'll be fine. So that like the whole practice,
Right.
I was like running up behind Victor. I was like trying I was like just do whatever. And I was like to a T. If Victor did something, I was doing it, and that was a huge part. That was a crazy like memory from my early days of wrestling. And then Victor, like we always had a great relationship.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Well, I don't talk to him nearly as much as I should. He
Same,
actually just
same.
sent me the nicest Instagram message ever. It was like,
Nice.
we may not talk all the time, but we have like it was something along those lines, like we have a friendship since childhood. And like I was like, oh, got me.
Solid dude.
I was like,
man. Really
always
the best.
we're always
His whole
friends.
family, the Torres family,
Yeah,
Craig and Chris,
they were all
and
great people.
Tamara, the whole family. It's good, just great people. But Wanto is cool like that. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's great. I listen, dude, I tried so desperately to leave. I went down to Florida for college. I came back. I lived in Brooklyn, Huntington, and then every time I wound up coming back. Then I met my wife, and it was just like, well, literally my entire family and all my friends are here. And it's like, I was never one of those guys like, I want to be somewhere else. Like, I always enjoyed the town, but like, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
So like Huntington was awesome. Just was horrendous
Far.
getting to and
Anyway,
from.
yeah.
And every time I needed to go somewhere, it was like, oh, go to Joe Bello's house, go to Wanto.
Yep.
And it was like, 35, 40 minutes down to 135. And then I lived all the way up north of the village. So then it was like, I had to come all the way home. And then if you were drinking, I wound up sleeping at my mother's house. And then,
Yeah, well, you can't beat the convenience of like if you grow up in that Massapequa to Merrick area.
oh, yeah, it's
You got
fantastic. The train.
Seaford Oyster Bay. You got the Meadowbrook, the Wantor. You can get it anywhere. The train's right there. It's like once you live there and you got the beach right there, like you can't go. It's hard to go anywhere else. It's,
I gotta be honest. I love the town. Like, dude, you're 45-minute train ride away from one of the best cities in the world. You're 10 minutes from the beach.
Yeah.
You're an hour from the Hamptons. If you want to go to Montauk, depending on traffic, it could be an hour and a half or 4 hours. It's got to be one of the greatest places to live. Wow.
And the sense of community, like.
Yeah, as I got older, that was like a big thing for me. Like I found myself like having like a real sense of pride, and like at first, like, I went to, like, the Nuanced Chamber of Commerce, and I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I was like, oh, I'm such a nerd. What am I doing? And then, like, I met these people, and it was like, you kind of, it's like, I don't know if infectious is the right word, but I guess that's kind of like how it feels. You just, all of a sudden, you're involved. And now, all of a sudden, I help run a golf outing, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And it's all great. Like, it also helps out a lot, too, with business. Fast forward a couple wrecked hotel rooms later, right?
I had some crazy, oh, man. Yeah. That was...
Dude, sign of times. You're young, bro.
That was a trademark of... fuck it, we're on the podcast. It was the Cusimano family.
Oh, yeah?
The Cusimano family, that's where his dad was gambling. And
which one?
So I was friends with Dom.
Oh, okay.
And then John's the older brother.
Yeah, John, I'm friendly with all of them. I've known them literally my entire life.
So
they lived on Riverside Drive. We used to play hockey together.
Yeah, they're right there.
Yeah, we used to play like roller hockey together, and then they went into like Catholic school. What John did. I was closer to John than Dom. And then,
he was more your
age,
right?
And then he just moved like around the block from me. I say just, but it was probably like 5 years ago. I see him. He just did work at my house.
Nice. Oh yeah, he moved over in the woods. Yeah. And then Dom just moved right by me. He's right in Merrick, right down the. He just built this sick house. Right down the block.
Not fair. They own a construction company.
Right.
Every time I need something, I'm like, can you help me out here?
But his dad took us away to Atlantic City one time, and I was like, John was like, I was young, and John's like the older brother, like he was like Dom's older brother. Like, Dom always had like the girl. He always had like a girlfriend, whatever, and then he started wrecking hotel rooms, and I was like, yo, let's wreck a hotel room. And I just, the hotel room thing was fun. I was having a good time.
I've wrecked one or two myself.
Yeah, it's what I mean. You're boosting the economy.
Absolutely, dude. You're helping employ somebody, give them a few bucks overtime.
There you go.
Listen,
buying them new paintings on the wall.
You're a businessman.
Yeah.
You're here to stimulate growth.
If I didn't fix it, I paid for it. It's all good.
Right. So, how did you were still doing MMA, and then you were doing real estate too. How did you get to, okay, this is something I want to do?
I got hurt in fighting, and everyone that was successful, like the guys that were at the jiu-jitsu class at noon, I didn't know it when I first started, but then as I got my real estate license, I started telling people, we're at noon, there's a noon class. I'm like, who's at a noon class? Not the people that
business people.
It's like a lot of them were in real estate, and I was like, oh, it's the guys that I'm rolling with that are good at jiu-jitsu. They're at like noon. They're able to go to a
freedom.
Noon
Him and John
class.
and I talk about like literally almost every conversation. It's like, unfortunately, money is the tool to freedom, but like, I don't need to be uber rich, but like, I just want the freedom.
That is the rich.
Yeah,
the rich are the.
Breeze of like ease of life.
Yeah.
To not have to be choked by bills.
To be able to go to a noon jiu-jitsu class, and that's why I was like around those people. And Nicky Knuckles Lamagna, he's a big real estate investor. Name.
That's a serious name.
Hey, Nicky Knuckles.
Nicky Knuckles. Yeah. So he was.
That's not fair.
Yeah. No, he's a monster, and he was like, oh, you got your real estate license. Uriah Faber was my coach on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
He was big in real estate investing. He always talked about. He preached like personal development and investing in, like I could have had any coach on The Ultimate Fighter, but he was not just like one of the guys that came to practice and left. He came to practice and then like met us out the house after, and
he always seemed to me like a genuine guy. Like,
for sure. He invited me out to he owned the whole block in Sacramento. And he was like, I bought my first house back when they were giving mortgages out to everybody. 2007, 2008. He bought a bunch of houses and rented them out to the fighters. Years later, he's got the whole block owned, and it's huge.
Like you said, it's a young man's game. You can't rely on that forever.
Yeah,
you got to have some sort of integration into something else.
Yeah.
Was it tough to give it up? Like, or you were ready?
Yeah, every day I still have a good workout, and I'm like, I could do one more.
Still got it.
Yeah, I have one good workout. I'm
Never
like,
goes away.
I think I still got it. And then the next morning I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna go sell some houses.
Yeah, because it's really, in reality, it's not just one workout, right? It's like a series of months of just endless grind and just and it's not even just a workout, right?
Yeah.
It's a mental aspect. It's a diet. Like, what do you walk around at?
Now I'm like 190, I think. I haven't stepped on a scale, and I used to step on a scale like
I remember when I was 190. I was born.
Yeah, kindergarten. I was not 190 in kindergarten.
Yeah, and then so what will you find at 170?
155.
Oh, even watch.
Yeah.
What's that weight cut like? Terrible.
Not fun. It's not fun. But I was used to it from wrestling and everything.
I think wrestling is probably, I know like a million people have said this before me, so when I say I think, somebody brought that point up, that I think wrestling might be like the greatest base you could give a kid for not just fighting, but just discipline.
Yeah.
Like, like things don't become an option.
Yeah.
It's like you do it. It's like brushing your teeth, combing your hair. It's just...
You're not going to get in more uncomfortable situations than that
Yeah.
as a kid.
You're out there by yourself in a freaking singlet.
Yeah.
You got a
junk flopping around.
Got a guy that's gonna freaking, like you're like it's one versus one. Who's put in the work?
And you're a kid too, so it's like, all right, get in there. Good job, Al.
Yeah. If you win, you can't rely on the defense. You can't rely on your goalie. It's all you in there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good for self-discipline, confidence booster. I put my kids in jiu-jitsu. They're still a little too young, so it's like they flip-flop on it.
Yeah,
They love it until they get choked out, and then they're like, "He choked me." I'm like, "No shit, dude.
Yeah,
you're supposed to do."
Yeah,
and,
I never wanted anything to do with the wrestling until like middle school. I don't know. I just never wanted anything to do with it, and then I got into middle school. I signed up, and I was like, "Yo, this is crazy."
You liked it?
Yeah. I had a little bit of natural ability, but I saw that the guys that worked hard won, and in a lot of other there's weight classes. There's in a lot of
Would you want to see more weight classes in MMA?
No, I think it's good the way I'm very like old school.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I hear that's like a topic brought up constantly.
Yeah.
Give out more weight classes, get more belts, make the weight cuts easier. I think, like when I think of like epic weight cuts, I think of like Chris Cyborg pretty much dying.
Oh, yeah.
And then like Connor looked like he was, sickly.
Yeah.
Which is wild. I don't ever remember you looking like that.
No, I cut a lot of weight, but nothing too crazy. I never had like an insane weight cut. It was never fun. It was never comfortable. I was used to it, definitely. But when I was in good shape, the weight came off. The weight came back on. I felt good, But towards the end,
the same thing every day for me.
The injuries, that's what got me into the real estate. Was I got hurt. I got my real estate license. I started doing that slowly. They said I had an injury where they were like, you might not fight again if you have this surgery. I had 3 knee surgeries, and the last one, they were like, half the doctors were like, I was at my wits. My knee, I couldn't fight. Like the condition I was in, my knee was just killing me, and it threw off my back. It threw off everything.
Yeah, your hips.
So
everything.
the hips, back, everything. I was all out of whack, and I was like, I need to get my knee fixed because I can't even I can deal with the knee pain, but that's throwing now everything off. So
it's all connected.
A lot of the surgeons, half the surgeons were like, if you do this surgery, you're not going to fight again. You'll feel good. You'll be able to walk. You'll be able to run a little bit. And then this one Dr. Williams at HSS, Hospital for Special Surgery, he was like, I do these. I feel confident. I do the surgery. You'll be good. I did the surgery, fought with the UFC to pay. So hospital.
Was this after the Khabib fight?
No, this was before.
Didn't something happen with them too? They didn't want to pay for something?
This was that. This was before the Khabib. The Hospital for Special Surgery is like the best hospital.
Yeah.
So a surgery there is, I think it was like $65,000, and everywhere else would have been $30,000, or 50 or 20, whatever it was. It was a lot less. So the UFC was like, we'll pay for the 20.
You can go to NUMC,
and then
you may not
I was
walk
like,
out
don't
with
you
a
want
leg.
me back in the cage? Like, wouldn't you want me to go to the best? So I fought with them. I connected HSS with the UFC and the UFC's doctor. Made the connection with them. I was like, listen, you got to talk to this guy. He says if he does the surgery, he's going to get me back in. Please pay for the goddamn surgery. I got to get back in there and fight. And I was like, I'm at the...
So there's no health insurance offered to you?
There is health insurance. At that time, it was a little weird.
Shouldn't you guys have, like, literally the best? You're a fucking
with the injury,
professional athlete.
with this injury, it was kind of like it wasn't like I got hurt in a fight. I did get hurt in a fight, but for whatever reason, it was not covered through whatever insurance they had. But it was more of like a gradual injury. Like I got surgery,
right?
Then I got hurt again. Yeah, it was wear and tear. So now I get them in touch. They finally. I went to Vegas and I met with Lorenzo Fertitta. I like sought him out at a conference, and I was like, Lorenzo, here's the deal, man. Like, and it was hard to get in touch with him, through any other avenues. You know what I mean? So I had to go there and see him in person and like get his ear. And I told him what was going on, and he was like, dude, get the surgery. Like, what are you doing? Like, you kidding me? And I was like, wow, that was like sick of him.
Surprisingly refreshing.
Yeah.
You go in there ready for a battle, and it's just like, oh, really?
Yeah, he was just he's the coolest guy in that I was like, wow.
How is Dana? Because he always looks like he's about to pop.
He's a business guy.
He seems very intense all the time.
He seems to hate the Long Island guys.
Does
I don't know if he's like any Matt Serra after that. I don't know if he seems like he's got a little.
He's a Boston guy, right? So he's probably hates everybody.
Guy. Could you imagine if that's what it is? I don't know, but I mean,
probably it's ingrained.
But he's,
they've been losing for a century.
Yeah,
to us.
Yeah. It's like Merab. Merab just won the title.
Yeah, I saw.
He's in Georgia right now. Like
I think I saw him like in a parade, and then like a guy in a chariot came up next to him.
You see that the guy's
running? Like, what is going? Where? I thought he was in New York.
Nah.
Because so at first, then I started looking, and I'm like, there's no way that's New York.
Yeah.
And you could see the cultural differences on just how people dress.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, there's a guy with a chariot. And then I was like, that must be wild for him to like leave. What was he doing? Construction or something like that? And then just like left his job and his life and everything.
Well, he moved to New York. He moved to New York from Georgia. I don't know. At the time, he didn't speak English. Shows up at the gym one day. We're like, who is this guy? He's an absolute animal. You could tell a lot about a person, even if they're not talking, just by how they train. And he would be there. He'd get there. Didn't know, but at the time, he'd work all day construction, get to the gym at like 5 o'clock, and then just train from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock. He wouldn't stop for 5 hours. He would go the whole time. This guy wants to spar, and then he goes here, hitting pads, doing jiu-jitsu. Like he got 3 days worth of work in 4 hours.
See, American dream is alive and strong.
Yeah, like that's the guy that they got to push, and it seems like they don't really get behind some guys, but Merab did it really on his own.
He speaks English now, right?
Now and then he starts learning English, and we're like, this guy's hysterical. This guy's awesome.
Yeah.
The more English he learned,
he
the
seemed
more
like superhuman, right?
Yeah, the guy doesn't get tired. I think he's got a genetic gift plus the work ethic gift.
Yeah.
Those two combined are just like an unstoppable
It seems like a lot
force.
of those guys, though, like even too, like Khabib, like they just come from, I don't even know if hard life is like the right term, but like a harder life than what we had. And that's why, like, I almost find it, so it's super impressive when someone like that happens, but like it's almost like even more impressive when somebody from a middle-class neighborhood, says, I'm going to do this, and they put their mind through it, and they don't have to.
Yeah.
You could have did, in reality, whatever you want. You had good grades growing up. You had great parents.
Good grades,
for the sake of the show. Like, you could have did what you wanted to, and you put your mind to it. And dude, it's so impressive. And like, you got that for the rest of your life. No one could ever take that away from you. I think it's super cool, and I think I'm like, envious that you have that ability. Not in like a bad way, but just like,
for sure.
It's awesome. And it's just like all my friends growing up, everybody was proud to know you. I think it's awesome. And then you take it and you spin it into a whole new business, doing real estate, which is like, and not really in reality when you probably started was awesome, but now it's probably super difficult, right?
It was difficult. I think it was probably just as difficult. We're gaining steam now. I got a solid crew at the office. I got some really like rock star agents that have been doing it longer.
Is
than
Aljo
me.
doing work for you?
No, I mean Aljo, he's in Vegas. He's training.
Right.
When he's in New York and we have like a listing, he'll come. He's super knowledgeable.
How like you're able to use your celebrity to further the business. I think that's great too.
It's definitely gotten me, it got me probably into some situations I wouldn't have been able to get into if I wasn't, I definitely sold some houses early because people saw me as a hard worker in the gym, and they knew that, if he can work hard and if he's just like a guy that gets it done, why wouldn't I list my house with him? If he does the same thing that he does in fighting, that he will do in real estate, I don't see why.
Does legacy drive any of your decisions?
As far as
to like leave a legacy, like a mark on everything? Or was it more like, this is what I want to do and I'm going for it?
Yeah, legacy is always good. I mean, like, my father's like my biggest kind of like idol, and he's got a legacy. It's just like, if people know him, they're always saying really good things about him. He's helped so many people, so many kids. Like, I'll meet somebody that's like, 50 years old, and they're like,
right.
I had your dad in middle school gym class. He was the best. Like, they can remember him impacting them.
What bigger compliment can you pay somebody?
And like anywhere, I'll be in Atlantic City at a fight, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're Iaquinta's son,"
That's what happens to like me and a few other people with Labello.
Yeah,
it's just like the most ignorant thing in the world. Somebody ran into somebody in like Chicago at like the St. Patrick's Day parade, and they were like, "Oh, do you know this guy Joe Labello?" And they were literally like, "Yeah, we know he is."
Yeah,
it's like, this guy's like the mayor.
Yeah,
it's like obnoxious.
Yeah. No, but it's cool, man. It's cool, and it definitely like inspired me. Like,
Yeah. So like now with the real estate, I heard you do. You were on someone's podcast or doing an interview about the what was it, micro something? Not micro. It was like you buy a house, you live in the room, and then you rent out the other room.
House hacking.
House hacking.
Yeah.
That's what.
So that's Uriah Faber's like blueprint. He bought a house that he probably couldn't afford. Back then, they were giving mortgages to everybody. But just bought it.
Yeah, no money down.
Yeah, like what he probably won a fight, had a little bit of money to put down, but the monthly payment, if they're giving you a mortgage for a payment that you can't show income and you can't pay for, they'll give you. A lot of those people went to foreclosure around that time.
Okay, what was that called? Like Ninja, right? Ninja loans.
Ninja loans, right? I don't know. I gotta.
One of my favorite movies is The Big Short.
Big Short, yeah.
Dude, what a great movie.
Yeah.
It's so underrated.
I gotta watch that again. I haven't watched that, and
when they go to, he's in the strip club, and she's just naked dancing, and he's like, "So wait a minute. So you're telling me they gave you this loan and that loan?" And he's like, "On which house?" And she's like, "You have more than one?"
Yeah, but that's what it was like.
It was like a Wild West.
Like,
what was it? Washington Mutual pretty much just gave everything away.
Yeah,
they were like, you make $40,000 a year. We'll give you $1 million.
And that's what it was. He got, he bought a ton of property, and he was one of the ones that could pay for it because he rented out all the rooms to the fight team, and I saw that, and I was like, this is the way to do it. I bought a house that I could barely afford. The garage, I told Greg St. John's mom. I don't know if you know Greg St. John. He was a little younger than me, but
I don't think so. Do you have a brother?
Brother was older.
I don't know if he went. I don't
think he went to Wanta though.
Chris, right?
Chris, yeah.
Yeah.
So she was my real estate agent, and I told her, I said, I just want like a 2-car garage, just because I want to have a gym. Like, I want to make a gym in the garage. I want to rent the house to fighters. We'll have the gym in the garage, and that's all I want. Nothing crazy. So the first house she showed me was the house that I ended up buying. It was a 2-car detached garage, with a bathroom in it.
Oh, sick.
It was like freaking. I tell everybody I bought the garage, and then the house just like came along with it.
Yeah.
It was,
I know exactly
so I rent the house. I had the gym in the garage. Was renting rooms to my friends at great rates. Like, they weren't going to be. This is like the best situation for everybody.
Right. You get the mortgage paid. They pay down your mortgage. You got a little bit of equity in the house. And
it's like college. It's like an.
Would you do that? Like that theory of house hacking? You wouldn't do that in like Wantagh, right? You would do that more of like a college town. Like,
no, that was in Seaford. Oh. Yeah. No, I think. Yeah, I mean, people do it in Long Beach where you.
I see like a lot of like Uniondale guys. They buy houses around Hofstra.
The Hofstra, yeah.
And they,
yeah.
rent it out to like 10 kids for
Yep.
whatever the numbers are. And they seem to do all right. I'm sure they have to deal with their fair share of BS because,
The parents co-sign though, so that's the big thing is the parents co-signing, and if anything gets damaged, you bill them for it, they pay for it. I think that's a great. I don't know about house hacking in that situation because you got to live with college kids. If you are a college kid, that's a good option. If you're a parent of a kid that's going into college, you buy him a college house. Your son or daughter lives there, rents it out to the, it's like automatic tenants.
Yeah, I mean, really, you just got to come up with a down payment, right?
Come up with a down payment.
Yep.
Now there's so many options, and then, then your son or daughter moves out. You keep that going, and that could become
real
theirs.
estate is, I think, your best option.
Yeah.
I always looked at wealthy people, and I always said to myself, like, what do they have in common? All the wealthy people, and they all own real estate.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, like when I say wealthy, I mean these people are owning like commercial buildings and so on and so forth. But they got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So like, I was always very interested in it. It's just the right situation hasn't presented itself yet, and it's just the way the market just took off post-COVID. It was wild, especially in Wanto, which you were there front row seats to. It's just like what I paid for my house on Silverton, what I paid for versus what I thought I was going to get were drastically different.
Yeah.
It's wild. And then too, when the interest rates went up, I expected things to kind of pull back or go sideways a little bit, and they kind of just kept going up.
Yeah.
And now, like, inventory is so low, and I always look at things through like the lens of like end game, right? So that's just my business. That's our family legacy was a funeral home, and it's just like property and real estate can be passed down, and it's only going up. God's not making more land,
especially on Long Island.
So like, I think if anybody has any sort of money that they're a little maybe leery of putting it in the market because of politicians, I think that real estate's the way to go, and they should probably give you a call to get that done.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It's Long Island, I think it's a steady market. It's always going to be good. Like you said, they're not making more land, and it gets a lot of heat because of the landlord. It's not very friendly, landlord friendly.
Right.
The laws. You
I think it's only going to get worse, though. Not in the sense of like bad, but like I sound like my parents now, but like I don't understand how these kids do it now. Like they're coming out of school behind the eight ball as far as like giant loans, right? They're really not making crazy amounts of money, and like their entry level homes are in like the eights.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can they afford that? So then they won't, so they rent. And if there's no apartments available to rent, that drives up the price, right?
Yeah.
So like, not that we're looking for affordable housing, but like I think it's a good thing that we get some entrepreneurs in there to buy up some property and make rent affordable and be able to make a few bucks at the same time.
Yeah.
I think,
No, Long Island, the demographic, not the demographic, like just the even like you look at Long Beach. Long Beach used to be like bungalows, blue collar. You could go to Long Beach and you could get a house for like nothing. I don't know, a couple $100,000 for like a little bungalow, 3 bedroom,
away every 5
one
years.
bed. Things got Sandy,
right,
kind of messed that
Sandy
whole thing
was
up,
wild,
messed everything up. Now every single house is $1 million house. They raised it,
and they're on top of each other.
And you're right on top of each other. But those the houses, they're just building everything. Wanta, where I moved in Forest Lake, Cornelius Avenue. Yeah. When I moved there, my parents' house was probably one of the it was probably one of the nicer houses on the block. Now, in the last 20 years, anything knocked down, McMansion knocked down. The entire block has changed. It's just like my parents' house and
we're like Baby Garden City now.
Yeah,
That's why I tell people all the time. It's like so when I bought my house, I didn't even mean to. I think we spoke about this briefly when we were on the phone. Is I had a real estate agent that I bought my starter home from, called me and was like, hey, I have somebody who wants to buy your house, and I have a house I think you might want to buy. And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, we loved everybody on the block, great neighbors. Where is it? Silverton. And like in my opinion, all those like long blocks, Silverton, Manchester, Carroll, I think those are like the creme de la creme of the woods.
The
So
Wanto
I was
Woods,
like,
man.
I'll go look. And then it was a Cape. And I was like, I'm not going from a Cape to a Cape.
Yeah.
And then spending like triple what I spent for the house. And she's like, just go look at it. I'm like, no, thanks. So I said no. My father does HVAC, and he's retired, but he still does something just to kind of, get out of the house. He went there, and they did, like, the oil tank abandonment. And he's like, oh, how come you never looked at that house? I'm like, I'm not going from a Cape to a Cape. And he was like, all right. He's like, it's not like your average Cape. You should go look at it. And I was like, I'm like, what's everybody bothering me for about this? So maybe like another week or two went by, and my wife and I, now my wife's got like the, hey, let's move bug. And in all fairness, we went from 1 kid to 3. My oldest is 8, and then we had twins. And we outgrew that house in literally like a second. And
Yeah, that's how it happens, right?
yeah. So then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, God, they're kind of right. I'm like, do you want to just go look at this house on Silverton and see what it's about so we could cross it off the list? And then we bought the fucking house. So it was like a real smooth transition, but like, I feel like in your business, it's like you get the lead, you got to go.
Yeah.
Because supply is being so low. Now, but you're not like, it's like the woman I dealt with, she was more like, everybody does it everywhere, right? But like they're big in Wanto.
Yeah.
So
Angela
like,
Test is big.
yeah,
She's big in
Angela,
Wanto.
she's a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
You seem to have more of a broad, like you're everywhere. I see all your Instagram clips of you're in Long Beach, you're out east. You said you just did something over here in Dix Hills.
Manorville. Oh wait, an agent from my office had a commercial showing in Dix Hills in the industrial.
And so like I think that gives you definitely like a competitive advantage of like you're not stuck to an area. Although you'd probably like to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like there's a couple agents, they're just in Wanto, and I think in the beginning you have to go all over the place. You have to go wherever the business is, and for a lot of people that's how it usually, as an agent, you sell your first house to like a friend or a family member, and who knows where they might be moving.
Right.
They're here, they're there, Queens, Suffolk, whatever. Now, obviously a lot of my network is in Wanto, Seaford, Merrick, that kind of area. But then you kind of narrow down as it goes on. You you focus on your area. You focus, you're really focused on Wanto, or you're focused on I could sell a house anywhere. It doesn't take me long to get into a market. If someone wants to sell in Manorville, I sold a house in Manorville, and I get it. That's not. I know Wanto like the back of my hand. I could tell you like the houses that have sold in Wanto. I could tell you. I could see a house. I could say this is what it's going to go for.
You think they're going to get that 2.8 for that house on Bunker?
I hope they do. I like them.
Every time they keep going up, so's my property.
Yeah, the property is unbelievable.
It's
the
beautiful.
Property is half an acre in Wanto. It's crazy.
I admired. It's gonna sound weird, but like those giant rhododendron bushes they have in the front.
Yeah.
They really like complement that house. So it's a beautiful property.
Yeah.
Just like God willing, they get it. It's good for all of us. But it's just wild to think. I remember, dude, pre-COVID, having a conversation with Joe Labello. I remember him telling me, "Yo, man, if you buy a house in Wanto for $1 million, you're nuts."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything was $1 million, and now $1 million is enough.
You can't even get in Wanto for
$1 million. You're in like
800,000. You're
in like a Levitt style Cape that needs everything redone.
It's crazy.
And no backyard, or like the backyard needs everything. We bought our house, and then we did the whole yard over, and it was great that we did it because now it's done, but like. It's just wild, like how you blow through. I was spending money like I was a drug dealer. I was just like, let's go. And now the chickens come home to roost. Next thing you know, you're on a podcast.
Dude, this is
What are some of like the hot towns on Long Island right now that people like?
The Wanto Woods. People are fighting to get into the Wanto
Everybody
Woods.
coming out from the city, and it went from a real like normal town to like, hey, I want to live here. You're asking 900. I'll give you like 1.
And what's the demographic of those people? Like 40s, kids?
It's gotten younger, I feel like, right?
Definitely gotten younger. It's
It's weird though. Like, I mean, you probably see it amongst your group of friends. There's like the OGs, like the original guys. Then not that you weren't friends with them, but like you just maybe didn't run in the same circles.
Right.
And now it's all full like outsiders, and you're like, "Yo, what's up?" And you wind up talking to these people and becoming friends with them. You know, not that you weren't friends with them before, but like now you're sitting next to them on purpose at like sporting events.
Yeah. No, it's cool.
How do you feel about the? I don't know if I'm saying this right, but like the buyer's agent fees.
I never really put too much thought into it. A lot of like the agents and the brokers were all like, "Oh, this is going to change the game. It's going to do this."
Well, somebody's got to pay for that.
Nothing's changed. At the end of the day, the commission, it really comes, whether the buyer pays for it or the seller pays for it, it comes from the deal.
Right. So someone's paying for it no matter what. You list it. And then technically the buyer's paying the seller, but the seller's paying the thing. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Someone's paying for it.
It's just one extra piece of paper that.
So is that mandatory now?
The buyer's agent has to sign a non-exclusive or an exclusive agreement depending on the situation with their buyer, and the buyer can negotiate the commission with the agent. So, if I'm working with you as a buyer, say, listen, this is what I bring to the table. You're not going to have to worry about, we're a team. I'm going to look at properties. You're going to look at properties. I'm going to set up the appointments. We're going to go, and in this market, like it's pretty tough to buy a house as a buyer right now.
Yeah, I remember what
you're like going to war. You're going to war to find a house. Like you're going to put offers on 10 houses, 15 houses. And especially a buyer that's like a new buyer that doesn't understand, they'll see a house and the house will be listed for $750 in Wantor, and you're like, okay, you like the house, I like the house,
or from $650,
or if they're even so that would be just like, that's just crazy. But
just wasting time.
or they're like, we'll do asking price. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
It's crazy.
Like, you're gonna have to
you have to negotiate.
You gotta sell your soul for this house, and it takes a couple people. They'll fall in love with a house. They'll put in an offer. They'll go, okay, we'll go 10,000 over asking, 20,000 over ask, 20, wild. And they don't get the house, and their heart breaks, and then they do another one. Then they do another one. They don't get it. Then they finally see a house another one that they love, and they're like, all right, 100,000 over asking price. Waive the appraisal contingency. Waive the always you want to do an inspection, but sometimes it comes down to it where it's like. Some people they're just house hungry. They'll do anything to get a house.
Well, I had a good experience. Then it turned a little sour, and then everything in the end, like, we actually became, I don't want to say friendly, but like friendly, at the very least cordial. So we bought our house, and I want to say like May of 23, maybe even June. They had 2 offers. They fell through in that time period of when she brought it to me the first time to now to that thing. Like I want to say they had 2 offers that they went to contract, fell through. The other one fell through. And then like, I'm not good at negotiation at all. I remember just being like, what's the number that's going to get it done? Just tell me the number. What do you want? And they tell me the number and I go, that's fine. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Then they had problems. They were building a mansion on, I forget what road it is, maybe Carrollton. Mm-hmm. And they had all sorts of delays and all sorts of problems. And we were supposed to close in like on or about August 1st, which obviously, for those of you who don't know, on or about just means either August 1st or like a month later. So a month comes and goes. I understand that they're having problems, but then in the interim, rates are going boop, 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 and I didn't get one of those. I didn't lock at that point because they were having issues.
Yeah.
And then I had asked the lady at the time, Carol Walker from Loan Depot. She was like, you should get one of these things where it's like, I forget what it's called, but you buy it for like almost nothing, and then if the rate drops, they'll drop the rate for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, dude, I didn't move into that house till January 3rd, but in the interim, rates were like at 1.8 something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I could afford this house at 8 something because my mortgage payment is like stupid.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden rates came down to like 6.5, and I had that thing in place. and we executed it. And not that I'm paying any less, but like I'm not paying 8.5% or whatever it is. And then hopefully now, like, you know, I would have thought they would have dropped a little bit more, being in an election year, and you know, all the pressure of the inflation and everything. But you know, they did that one big one recently.
Yeah. It's been
But like, what do low rates mean for you? You find that people will spend more, or be more willing to spend?
It's really about the inventory.
Right.
Lower rates means people.
But everybody's
they'll
got a price, right? Like, you know, somebody might not want to sell, but like if they can afford a house, and then, you know, if the house is worth 1.5 and they go, I'll give you 1.8, and so long as they meet the bank's criteria.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know there might not be too much of that, but.
Yeah, I mean that's people will do it. They'll overpay for a house, that's for sure. But the overall inventory, as far as people that are putting their house on the market, there's not a lot of inventory out there, because if you have a 3% interest rate, and all right, I list my house for sale, I want to either go up or downsize.
Right.
You downsize from if you got a 3% interest rate on $1 million house, and then you're going to a 6-7% interest rate on, you know, an $600,000 house, you're paying more for less of a house.
Right.
No one's putting their house on the market. So when those rates come down, hopefully they come down. I think a good, like, if it was like in the mid fives.
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, we're not high.
Yeah.
In reality.
Yeah, no. Everyone just got
spoiled.
They got
Even too, I had a
2%.
2% rate
Yeah.
on a 15-year mortgage. I was almost done, and I felt like I was doing financial suicide. But like, dude, we just had, again, the house was just way too small.
Yeah,
you know,
that's the only time people are really moving, when they have to, you know, and either death, divorce,
call me,
or